Hello! Welcome back to 3D Mako. Oh, I'm sick again. Of course, it's winter. It's cold, my fingers hurt, I got arthritis. It's a day. It's a midnight, actually. Welcome in. I am actually going to be doing a little sneak preview, little interview of the Blood of Dawnwalker. That's right, another company actually let me back in. Didn't expect that. Then I was gracious enough to fly me and my friend Jets over to their office in Sydney to take a look at the new game from Rebel Wolf Studios, the Blood of Dawnwalker. This will really be a preview of sorts. They've been using footage for me to show off, but I did get exclusive time with a Reddit awesome about the game. And Jets wanted to tag along and see how my process worked. Is it really a process if I've only done this twice? I wanted her to come along to save me if I flipped. So for some preamble, the Blood of Dawnwalker is an upcoming third-person RPG about vampires set in 14th century Europe. War and plague have swept across the land. As you can imagine, lots of death fuel means lots of free blood, and the vampire aristocracy seizes power from the now very weak humans. This charming flock of vampires is led by Francis, who reminds me a little bit of Ralph Fiennes, and much like him, runs a conclave for your village that collects your blood as communion. Before you start thinking he's totally evil, he did get rid of taxes, and making people drink blood in return does heal the weak. It heals the plague. I get rid of taxes. That's... Why are we fighting the vampire? I love not paying taxes. However, people don't take kindly to being livestock. There was actually a quest in my time playing about finding, returning, and then butchering a pig for meat. The farmer gave the pig a good life, he argued, and he does it as swiftly as he can, which isn't cruel. It does make us wonder, are the vampires being cruel, or are they acting within their nature to reveal what they see as animals that can't match up to their immortality? And do they... Combat-wise, it is a third-person RPG, a la The Witcher. And that might actually be more of a close comparison than we thought, because the team is made up of a whole bunch of ex-CD Projekt people. So in the Blood of Dawnwalker, there is a whole day-night cycle that takes along the entire time as you play, but moves ahead in increments. That allows them to construct quests where each little part of the quest moves forward the time a little bit more. I thought that was really interesting because it made you actually have to stop and consider what quests you want to go for in, say, our specific time in the prologue, rather than time just ticks on because the sun in the sky moves down. It felt like a more interesting way to do it. Time will tell if this actually is good. You play Cohen. Him. Also him now. Him. He is a vampire now. Alrighty, tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do?
Right, hi, so my name is Piotr Kucharski and I am one of the writers working on Rebel Wolves and currently working on The Blood of Dawnwalker.
Alright, thank you very much. Well, we had a little bit of time to check on the game so far. We've had about 3 hours, and it's been really, really cool so far seeing you're switching between day and night modes and different activities. I was wondering if there's any challenge writing the story for how you allocate the time to each story beat.
Right, so it's all a challenge, to be honest. I mean, you have to take into consideration both the dual gameplay and, and to balance it so players feel that whenever they use the time mechanics, the time as a resource, you have to make it so that, first of all, it's balanced, but also that whenever you do such a choice, then you get a proper reward for it, right? That you feel that, okay, I've paid with my time, but I get something from it.
And how do you decide what should be a missable quest for something that the player definitely should see?
So basically what the player needs to see is the prologue. And after that, just the final fight probably. Because in our game, after the prologue, you know where the goal is, where Francis is, the big bad evil guy. And how you get there, it's up to you.
Right, and on the setting for that one, it was set in the 1300s?
It's the 40th century. It's, I believe, 1349. Yeah.
Yep. And for the parts of Europe, was there any in particular you had to scout location-wise or to look to integrate folklore into?
Well, you know, we are all from Poland, so not all of us, but most of the team is from Poland. So to us, the region we chose, so it's Carpathians, which are also, you know, the mountain range. Some of it is also in Poland, so it's very close to us. Of course, Romania is also a country that's not very far away from us. For example, I went there on vacations last year, doing some, let's say, research. But you know, all this folklore, we grew up with it, right? We know it. So to us, it was very natural to find the sources, but we also added our own twist to it. So basically, those people who are, you know, history buffs or folklore buffs, if they are, you know, interested in such things, they will find quite a lot of interesting elements in the story that, you know, that correspond to real things from real life. Yeah. But we also add our own twists, our own ideas to make it our own IP.
Yeah. And speaking from a Polish side of things, how are you dealing with the Witcher comparisons? Is this a case where the team is proud to be compared to it?
I mean, Witcher 3 is a great role-playing game, so being compared to it is, you know, it's praising on its own. And, you know, many of the people working in Rebel Wolves are people who work in CDPR, so you cannot really avoid this topic. Yeah. But, you know, we are all gamers. We want to create a great experience for other gamers. Comparisons are welcome, but in the end, we want to do our own thing, and we truly believe that it will be a good game that many people will, you know, they will enjoy it. So yeah.
And how is the first initial 30 days for the castle sequence decided as the time limit? And are there parts after that have a similar time limit or failure states?
So basically, no. So basically, if I get your meaning correctly, so basically, the whole game tells you that it's 30 days and 30 nights to complete your goal. The goal being saving your family. And you know, but you can fail this, and the game will not be. It's not going to be game over. You still will be able to continue playing on, but of course with consequences of that inaction, right? Of failing to save the family.
And how important is, say, letting the player fail and keep continuing the story to the overall writing? Are there states where you'll have an actual game over the screen, or is it all going to be continuous? Like you failed this part and the story keeps going? Or
so basically, yeah. So basically, even if you fail something, you still, you know, the story's still going on until you reach the end. We all believe, you know, in failing forward. So it's not only about the main quest; it's about any other storyline in the game. That even if you fail something, you will get something from it, right? So things will happen. There will be consequences of your actions, and in the end, it's all about providing players with a rewarding narrative experience.
What would you say is your favorite quest you've worked on? I know you don't want to give spoilers, but
I cannot really get into any details. What I can say that my favorite quest I worked on that I really do love is how to say it without spoiling anything. It concerns a merchant from Svartral, a curious merchant, and this is the only thing I can say right now.
And on the vampire folklore aspects, I noticed there are cases where you can run across water. Are there any considerations for garlic, crosses?
Right, so again, we drew from many, you know, sources regarding vampire folklore, and we played with a few things. For example, at some very early iteration, we're thinking about, you know, adding the whole the vampires cannot enter a home without an invitation. And at first we're like, oh, that's a cool idea, you know, so the player has to, you know, try to circumvent and, you know, try to find some other ways to enter a place. But then we're like, no, it's going to complicate so many things that we decided to get rid of it. But, you know, there is, of course, the silver weakness. There is vampires turning into wolves, which is a lesser-known fact, but in many folkloristic, in many folklore stories, vampires do tend to turn into wolves. For example, in Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, right? The main difference is that you do not turn into a vampire by being fed another vampire's blood. Instead, in our game, you are, the vampire has to pull out their fang and put it in your heart, right?
Yep.
So, and we have quite a few of those.
Yep. And just the fang in the heart, does that come from any particular region mythology?
I think it is a play on, and I may be mixing things up right now, but I think it's connected to Greek mythology. And you have this, I think it's in Jason and the Argonauts, you have this idea of dragon teeth that are they're put in the ground and skeletons raise out of it. And I think that was the source of it, but I'm not quite certain. We'd have to ask Kuba Sharma, our narrative director, who is a really, when it comes to ancient times, both Rome and Greek, mythology, he's a real buff about those. So.
That's interesting, because I stumbled into a cave very early on that had Greco-Roman visuals.
Oh, yeah.
And that was fascinating, because my brain was not at a point in the game where it all ties together.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is connected to what we call the deep lore of the game.
Yes, I stumbled into a very deep cabin.
Yeah, and there will be quite a lot of such bits, which are very much optional for the players. But if you decide to explore that part of the game, you will probably I think in the first one you'll get more questions than answers, but in the long run it will all make sense.
At what point do you think maybe there should be more passive options or go down the route of no, you have to do combat? Because comparing with, say, other vampire-style games like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and there's non-lethal options, but there's still sneaking around stuff. Was there a choice in development where I went towards no, only combat for certain sections?
Well, there will be non-combat options, mostly via dialogues, right? You will have some choices to avoid combat altogether. I think in the prologue, I think it was done on purpose that you have to fight a bit at least because to learn the mechanics, right? So but in the further parts of the game, we always try to at least come up with some ideas of options to maybe avoid the combat or maybe to, for example, to make it easier on yourself, right?
Yeah. Is it difficult, or are there any points where it's harder to create quests because Cohen has certain abilities, or the player could not have certain abilities at that point in the game for more dialogue options?
Oh, I know what you mean. You have to take those into consideration, right? The gameplay is very important to us as well. So, and you also have to take into consideration the time of day. There will be some, instances of dialogues reacting to what the player has on their disposal at the moment, right? So there will be differences between different playthroughs.
Jets, do you have any questions about your playthrough?
When it comes to the process of writing something like this, do you have a preference for the holistic story or the nitty-gritty? Like, what do you enjoy building the most in your experience?
Right. So, that's a tricky one. Me personally, I like to write the smaller bits. The more personal stories and emotional things. This is what I simply like to write, and it's a matter of preference. But also, when writing for the Dawnwalker, as you probably already know, it's going to be a saga. We underline the whole point by showing the present day cinematic teaser on SGF, just to remind everyone, this is going to be a long one. And it helps, us narratively speaking, because now we know where we are going with Cohen. So, for example, you can answer some questions very easily, like, okay, are we adding this thing? Well, we can add it, but it will complicate things in the long run. So now we have to take into consideration many other things. So is it really worth it? In many instances, we come up with ideas how to make it, feasible. Because when you have a good idea, you have to fight for it, right? But in some instances, we're like, okay, what's a cool idea, but let's scrap it because it will complicate things too much for us. Yeah. Even if we don't know all the answers right now, but we have some ideas, right?
Yeah. Oh, and on that, were there any parts that were cut from the game that you're allowed to talk about that you still wish were in the game now?
Your little darling that you wish you could have included.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Honestly, I don't remember. And it's a fun thing because, we when you are making a role-playing game, I think, honestly, any narrative-driven game, you very quickly learn to kill your darlings. And, because we have a saying that the paper will forgive everything, right? It will, it will soak it up and it's all beautiful. But when you're starting to, to incorporate the thing into the game, Then it turns out there are some technological limitations, or it doesn't really work with the rest of the game. Let me think if there's something I can share. I'm not sure if I can share anything, but definitely there were some quests that, when I was writing them, some dialogues, then I had fun with them, and I think they were, emotional and they should, play well. But in the end, when we talked in the team, and we decided to scrap them because they didn't work with the whole, with the complete version of the game. But I don't think I have anything. I think I'm very happy with what ended up in the game, and I'm just looking forward to people to be able to play it and tell us what they liked, what they enjoyed, and so on.
Jets, did you have any more questions?
There's a lot of themes being presented and ideas and mythology and with family being a big theme. Is there a particular kind of feeling or kind of, I guess, like theme in the story that you really looking forward to seeing players engage with, or is special to you and what you wrote into it?
I think that to me, the game itself is about family, but also about finding your own path, right? And Cohen, he's a guy who, when we were thinking about writing him and we're designing the character, we wanted to get this guy who can, have his hero's journey, so to speak, from zero to hero, but also someone who is already established and well fleshed out. And to us, Cohen is a guy who had a really tough upbringing, and who the very first choice he made was before even the game starts, because his choice was, if I have a hard life, I can either become someone who is hard himself and not very open to other people, or the other way around. I may try to find closeness with other people on my own, even if I don't have it, in my nearest surroundings. And we went the other way, right? So Cohen is someone who really understands how people tick. He knows how they emote. He is able to see their motivations very early on, and this is what we wanted to deliver with with the dialogues and the options that Cohen has. So to me, what I want the players to really get into when playing the game is to answer the question: what is family? What does it mean to you? Is it? There are some cliches in there, but cliches that work, so family is it by blood, or is it someone you find on the way, right? But I think, the players will be able to answer those questions themselves, and in the end, they will also be able to create their own versions of Cohen, because it's up to them if he will be, for example, even saving your family. Is it because you want to do it because you care for them and you feel that you need to save them? Or maybe you want to do it because some bold bastard called Francis turned you into a vampire, and now you want to, get your revenge, right? Yeah. So it's up to you, really, yeah.
And on the overall world, is this an isolated vampire collective that's in this area specifically, or are the lands outside fine, or is it a whole world scale event?
Right, this question. So it's a tricky one, because of course I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
Basically, what is happening in Vale Sangora is quite an event. So we have vampires coming out of the shadows and taking control of the valley. In the beginning, people were surprised because, vampires were stuff of legends, and now they're out here in the open telling us what to do. There is, of course, larger lore and, and story behind the Vrakhiri, as we call them. Some things the players will be able to find out. Some things will become clearer, and they will become clearer in the next installments of the game.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm looking forward is to people exploring the vampires we created for the first one. So the Francis clique, because you have Ambrose, the youngest one, but also you have Xanthi, the oldest one, who is in fact not the leader of the clique. So looking for the answers. Why is she following Francis? What are her reasons? I think that can also be quite fun for people to explore.
Yeah, because there was one vampire that had was it Mongolian looking?
Bakir. Yeah, he's from Mongolia, yeah.
Oh, cool. And you said next and so on. So are there already plans in motion for the next part of the game? Or?
Right. We focus on one project right now, and this is what we want to deliver, right? We want to deliver the Blood of Dawnwalker in the best shape possible.
Yeah.
Of course, there are talks inside the company. We are, thinking about, we are making a saga, right? This is what we want to make, but it's too early to really share anything right now. want to see how the first one, is enjoyed by people, and hopefully, if people have fun, we will be able to move on to some other things. We'll see.
Fun questions. Right. How do you get your inspiration for writing?
My writing?
Yeah.
Oh my. Honestly, I'm a firm believer of just doing the work.
Yeah.
I think it was Jack London, the one who wrote The White Fang, I believe, who said that, you do not wait for the inspiration to come to you. You go after it with a club in your hand and, just to whack it on the head and take it for yourself. So I find inspiration everywhere and anywhere, to be honest. From books, from music, from other games, from anime, from mangas, from everything really. Because I do believe that if you're writing, if you're working, in the creative field, you have to be able to really broaden your horizons and look for inspiration anywhere, because it may be something like you watch a thing about vampires and this is what inspires you, but maybe you read a poem about whatever, seals, and this poem about seals tells you something about nature of humans and it helps you with writing something inside the Blood of Dawnwalker. I don't know, maybe.
Were there any poems of seals that inspired you, or poems in general?
Now you get me. No comment, thank you.
Best vampire in media outside of the main character in this game.
Oh,
do you have a personal Nosferatu?
Right, let me give a moment to think.
Who asked that question yet?
Let's go with old school. Let's go with Raziel from Legacy of Kain. Raziel was really cool.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Last year, it was really quite good.
Oh, right. There's a lot of theming of famine and pestilence, and was Nosferatu one of the main inspirations for we're getting kicked out of it. No? Okay. Where was I? Were they one of the more main inspirations behind the more ghastly appearance of those older vampires?
You would have to actually ask the artists on our team, but I think so. Yeah, I mean, they drew inspiration from many things, and in our game especially, you have this idea that the vampires, the older they get, they change their how they look. So, for example, we have Ambrose, who is the youngest one, who still looks like quite a handsome lad, and then you have Xanthi, the one with the veil, that looks. Yeah, she doesn't look very alive, to be honest. So
I'm actually curious about something now. When you're building the story, how much information are you putting forward when it comes to the characterization, and how much is a collaboration with the actual artist team?
Well, you start with a design doc.
With
design document, you put your ideas into it, but those guys, they are the ones who are experts in it. So I may have an idea how I want my NPC to look, but then they just take it and do their own thing with it. It is awesome because we consult things. They ask us, okay, so guys, we have this idea, blah, blah, blah. And it really works nicely. And, generally speaking, consulting things within the teams, it's a really great thing that we have in Rebel Wolves, that really talk to each other. But in the end, we have full trust in those guys. And, many times I was surprised in a way that, for example, I was like, oh, this is not how I imagined this character, but it's so much better right now. So yeah.
All right, tell us the details about when the game is coming out. Stare in the camera. Yep.
Okay, look in the camera. Okay, guys, so September the 3rd, we will welcome you in Vale Sangora. Hopefully Cohen will be your hero, your character, and the way you craft the path for him, we hope it will be very, very enjoyable, and you will, it will spark a lot of comments and talking on Reddit and whatever you do your talking. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you very much to Bandai for flying me out to Sydney, and Pez, our lovely manager Kikres, for giving us a hotel to stay in so that we don't have to sleep on the ground in Sydney, which is very dirty and very gross.